Welcome to Keep the Faith Ministry News. The largest city in the state of Montana faces running out of fresh water within 36 hours after Billings' only local treatment plant was overwhelmed by the devastating floodwaters that have closed Yellowstone National Park. Billings has just a 24 to 36 hour supply of water, and officials asked its 110,000 residents to conserve after water levels became too high for it to function. The water is shown clearly destroying a red gantry that allows treatment plant employees to access the main building. Officials insisted that the water is still safe to drink, but it is in low supply. Heavy weekend rains and melting mountain snow had the Yellowstone River flowing at a historically high level of 16 feet as it raced past Billings. Video showed raging waters that rushed through Yellowstone National Park and surrounding communities earlier this week, moving through Montana's largest city, flooding farms and ranches and forcing the shutdown of its treatment plant. The city gets its water from the river and was forced to shut down its treatment plant at about 9:30 a.m. because it can't operate effectively with water levels that high. Quote, "None of us planned a 500-year flood event on the Yellowstone when we designed these facilities," said Debbie Melling, the city's public works director. The city also stopped watering parks and boulevards, and its fire department was filling its trucks with water from the Yellowstone River. The unprecedented and sudden flooding that raged through Yellowstone earlier this week drove all of the more than 10,000 visitors out of the nation's oldest park, which remains closed. It damaged hundreds of homes in nearby communities, though remarkably no one was reported hurt or killed. It also pushed a popular fishing river off course, possibly permanently, and may force roadways torn away by torrents of water to be rebuilt a safer distance away. Quote, "We thought we had it, and then a bridge went out, and it diverted the creek, and the water started rolling in the back, broke out a basement window, and started filling up my basement," Pat Ruzick said. "And then I quit. It was like the water won." Park officials say the northern half of the park is likely to remain closed all summer, a devastating blow to the local economies that rely on tourism. Meantime, as the waters recede, park officials are turning their attention to the massive effort of rebuilding many miles of ruined roads and hundreds of washed-out bridges, many of them built for backcountry hikers. Yellowstone Superintendent Cam Shawley said assessment teams won't be able to tally the damage until next week. Kelly Goonan, an associate professor at Southern Utah University and an expert in national parks and recreation management, said rebuilding will be a long process. Quote, "This is something we're definitely going to feel the impacts of for the next several years," Goonan said. As the Yellowstone rebuild efforts get underway, rangers will have to consider the reality of the park's altered landscape as well as potential future natural disasters. Quote, "We certainly know that climate change is causing more natural disasters, more fires, bigger fires, and more floods and bigger floods. These things are going to happen, and they're going to happen probably a lot more intensely," said Robert Manning, a retired University of Vermont professor of environment and natural resources. Officials may also be able to rebuild in a way that's more ecologically sound than the roads and bridges built a decade or century ago, he said. Yellowstone officials are hopeful that next week they can reopen the southern half of the park, which includes Old Faithful Geyser. Closure of the northern part of the park will keep visitors from features that include Tower Fall, Mammoth Hot Springs, and Lamar Valley, which is known for viewing wildlife such as bears and wolves. Still unresolved is how it will handle all the tourists when only half the park is open. Quote, "One thing that we definitely know is that half the park cannot support all of the visitation," Shawley said Tuesday. The park will likely implement some kind of reservation or timed entry system to let people in without sending crowd sizes sky high. Quote, God's message for the inhabitants of earth today is, Be ye also ready, for in such an hour as ye think not, the Son of Man cometh. Matthew 24:44. The conditions prevailing in society, and especially in the great cities of the nations, proclaim in thunder tones that the hour of God's judgment is come and that the end of all things earthly is at hand. We are standing on the threshold of the crisis of the ages. In quick succession, the judgments of God will follow one another, fire and flood and earthquake, with war and bloodshed. We are not to be surprised at this time by events both great and decisive, for the angel of mercy cannot remain much longer to shelter the impenitent. Prophets and Kings, page 278. This is Keep the Faith Ministry News. Thank you for watching.